Why do we often feel like we're fighting against ourselves, struggling with anxiety, self-doubt, addiction, or shame, as if parts of us are sabotaging our happiness? Because the parts of us that cause struggle aren't bad, they're wounded. In his groundbreaking book, No Bad Parts: Healing Trauma and Restoring Wholeness with the Internal Family Systems Model, Dr. Richard Schwartz introduces a compassionate new way of understanding ourselves. He shows us how every aspect of our inner world, even the ones we try to suppress or reject, plays a vital role in our well-being. Through the Internal Family Systems (IFS) model, Schwartz reveals that we are not a single self, but a complex system of inner parts, each with its own voice, purpose, and story. Part 1, Introducing Internal Family (SYSTMS) IFS. 1. The parts within us. Richard Schwartz discovered that our minds are not monolithic. Instead, they function as systems composed of subpersonalities, or parts. Manager parts try to control life to avoid pain. Firefighter parts react impulsively when emotional pain surfaces, for example, binge eating addictions. Exiles carry our deepest wounds, trauma, and shame. These parts often clash with each other, leading to inner turmoil, but crucially, none of these parts are bad, they're just trying to protect us, even when they cause harm. Every part has a positive intention, even if its method is extreme. 2. The true self. At the core of every human being is the self, a calm, compassionate, curious, and connected presence. The goal of IFS is to help the self take leadership of the internal system. Qualities of the self known as the 8 C's. Curiosity, compassion, calm, clarity, confidence, courage, creativity, connectedness. When the self leads, healing becomes possible. Instead of exiling our pain, we learn to befriend it. 3. Why parts take over. Most of us live in systems where wounded parts dominate. If you've experienced trauma, abandonment, or shame, your manager parts may try to control every aspect of life to avoid future pain. Firefighters may step in with compulsive behaviors to numb overwhelming emotions. But these parts aren't the problem, they're the response. And when we approach them with judgment, we only deepen the conflict. IFS invites us to shift the dynamic from internal war to internal harmony. Part 2, Working with your parts. 4. Getting to know your system. IFS is experiential. The work begins by turning inward and identifying the voices inside us. Instead of saying, "I'm angry," you might say, "A part of me feels angry." This subtle shift allows distance from the emotion and makes room for the self to observe with curiosity. Steps. Notice what emotion is present. Separate, identify it as a part, not your whole self. Listen, what is this part afraid of? What does it need? This begins the sacred work of self-listening. 5. Befriending managers and firefighters. Manager parts often appear as inner critics, perfectionists, people pleasers. Firefighters may show up as addiction, angry outbursts, avoidance behaviors. Though these parts may clash, they often share the same mission: protect the vulnerable exiles. By acknowledging their protective role, we can begin to build trust. Instead of forcing change, we ask, what are you afraid would happen if you stopped? How long have you been doing this job? Would you be open to resting if the self could care for the exile? 6. Healing the exile. Exiles are the most tender parts. They carry burdens from childhood or trauma, memories, beliefs, and emotions that were too painful to process at the time. Examples of exile beliefs: I'm not good enough. I'm unlovable. The world isn't safe. Once protectors, managers, firefighters trust the self. They allow access to exiles. The self then witnesses the exile's pain, offers compassion, and helps release the burdens. This is the heart of healing in IFS, transforming pain not by erasing it, but by witnessing and integrating it. When exiles are unburdened, the system transforms. Protectors can retire and inner harmony emerges. Part 3, IFS in daily life and healing. 7. IFS as a spiritual practice. Schwartz describes IFS as not just a therapy, but a path of awakening. The self is more than a psychological concept, it's a sacred presence, similar to what many spiritual traditions describe as the soul or inner light. Practicing IFS. increases self-compassion, builds emotional resilience, strengthens internal trust. The more we operate from self, the more peace and clarity we experience, not just internally, but in our relationships and choices. 8. Self-leadership. The ultimate goal is self-leadership, living with the 8 C's as your guide. When the self leads, parts become allies, not obstacles. Benefits: greater emotional regulation, better decision-making, less reactivity in conflict, more authenticity. Daily self-leadership practices. Begin the day with a check-in. What parts of me need attention today? End the day with gratitude for your inner team. 9. IFS and trauma recovery. Traditional trauma therapy often focuses on managing symptoms. IFS goes deeper, treating trauma as burdens carried by parts of the psyche. Trauma is not just what happened, it's the belief that resulted from what happened. IFS helps by giving voice to the wounded parts, releasing toxic beliefs, restoring a sense of wholeness. It is particularly effective for PTSD, complex trauma, childhood neglect, shame and guilt. Part 4. Culture, community, and collective healing. 10. Beyond the individual. Schwartz extends IFS beyond personal healing. He explores how groups, communities, and even nations develop parts, polarized roles, and protective systems. Just as individuals have exiles and protectors, so do collectives. Healing our inner world ripples into our outer relationships and societal structures. IFS invites us to approach others not as enemies, but as people operating from parts. This fosters empathy and conflict resolution. When we lead with self in the world, we become forces of healing. 11. Working with inner critics. One of the most common manager parts is the inner critic. It often believes that shaming or punishing us will keep us safe. But self-judgment never leads to growth, it leads to fragmentation. With IFS you can thank the critic for its effort, understand its fears, invite it into a new role, for example, as an encourager or protector of values. This transforms inner criticism into inner guidance. 12. Living without bad parts. Living without bad parts doesn't mean eliminating difficult emotions. It means embracing all parts of you with compassion. You are not broken, you are a system of protectors and wounded exiles, all doing their best. Healing begins when you stop trying to fix yourself and start listening instead. Grow reads practice each morning. Ask, what part of me needs love today? Sit quietly, listen, then offer compassion. Conclusion: radical wholeness is possible. No bad parts offers a profound reframe of the human psyche. Instead of pathologizing ourselves, we learn to welcome every voice within us. Through the internal family systems model, Dr. Richard Schwartz invites us to live from self, lead with compassion, and bring peace to our internal world. Whether you're navigating trauma, managing anxiety, or simply seeking inner harmony, IFS offers a map home to your wholeness. Thank you for joining Grow Raids, where big ideas help you heal, grow, and transform. If this summary resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who needs to know there are no bad parts.